Today I am starting the project on a larger misting system that's going to be a little bit more commercial grade. So I more or less leveled the ground and put down a contiguous piece of landscaping fabric. And I'm putting in the pipe work now, the distribution system for the water and the misters. Right now it's just 3/4 inch pipe with 1/2 inch T's that are gonna have risers on them, and then the mist nozzles will go into those. I'll do some updates as I go. And then I'm just gonna build out a box of wood around the whole thing. So it's gonna be one big box, and then we're gonna put in sand. So then it's gonna be a misting system in sand in the greenhouse. We can put shade cloth over this section. We can do whatever we need to do to keep the sun moderate. It's already a little bit shaded in here, but I might do the remake like I did in that other jankier spot. But as I get into putting in the mist nozzles and the timer and the valves and everything, I'll do a little bit of an update. Right now, I had just planned out the distribution network, and gluing that up. It's 50 feet long by 5 feet. So it's going to be quite a lot of space for doing a ton of cuttings. So I got the distribution system up, and then I just put this little laser level out, which is kind of fun because it makes it very clear where to get the pipe tops. So now what's going to happen is there's going to be water in all of this pipe network, and the water is going to be sitting directly at the laser level in all the pipes with a little misting nozzle at the top of each one. So the water will be there, and then when the pressure comes on, all of them will mist at the same time, and then when it turns off, none of them will drip if I get them all right. And so I'm gonna keep all these posts upright because this is gonna be buried in 6 inches of sand. I'm gonna build a little box around the whole thing and then put in 6 inches of really coarse sand. So then we'll have rooting medium and even moisture, and we should get way better rooting than I did last year, and last year was not bad. Update on the misting system that's coming along. I got all the PVC pipe network in, and I just finished the rough framing of the box that goes around this whole thing. And then coarse sand is going to go in there. So I have these solenoid valves. So those are just going to be, it's just an on and off switch that's controlled by a timer. And the timer has to be able to turn the water on and off by seconds. So most timers can only do that by minutes. And 1 minute, which would be the lowest setting, would be too much water. We just need pulses of a few seconds of water to keep the leaves moist and keep everything humid and cool, and then it can go off. So in the heat of the summer, it's probably going to be misting for 5 seconds every 3 to 5 minutes. And, you know, it just uses a few cups of water, but just so frequently. And I have an AC controller that's going to be plugged in with the battery backup, so this will function unless the well pressure goes out or we lose power. So, because, you know, if you have everything rooting and you've got this much time and energy into it, and then the power goes out on a hot day, you can just lose everything. So we do have a generator backup for the greenhouse also. So, you know, it's a pretty infrastructure heavy system that requires a lot of, you know, engineered moving parts that need to function. So it's not a, you know, not a highly resilient system. Any part goes wrong, the whole thing fails. So it's a, you know, there's that downside, but the positive side is that this is 5 feet by 60. I can just have thousands and thousands of cloned, named varieties, bushes, trees, whatever, you name it. This can do a lot more than dormant hardwood cuttings. Anyway, the next step is I'm trying to find the right material to fill it with. I want washed sand or coarse sand. You don't want mason sand because that's usually a little bit too fine. Concrete sand might be okay depending on the supplier, but you basically want something that looks sort of like beach sand that will just always drain really freely. The problem with mason sand is that there's a lot of fines in there, and sometimes you'll get some puddling and it won't drain quite well enough, and then a lot of cuttings will start to rot out. So I had that last year with the mix that I had. Was a little bit too moist, and the water sat in the bottom. And you sort of learn that over time. If you have a mixture that's holding more moisture than is ideal, then you can stick your cuttings just less deep. But ideally, you know, the cuttings are going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 inches deep. So we want it to drain well. So again, there's the landscape fabric underneath, which will allow water to percolate, but will prevent any perennial weeds from coming up through. And then we've got 2x6s that I pulled out of the woods that are pretty gnarly, but they'll worked. And now I got to fill it with sand. And the reason I'm doing the sand first is because the sand, putting the sand in is going to move the pipes around, and the ground is pretty level but not perfect here. So the sand will sort of lock everything in place, and then once the sand locks everything in place, then I'll bring that laser level back out and then cut all the tops of the pipes off flush, then put the misting nozzles on, and then do the valve controller and everything, and then we're good to go. All right, take 2. I just thought that I was recording for about 10 minutes, and then I realized that I hadn't pressed play. So that's fun. Although it gave me an opportunity to figure out exactly what I wanted to say. So here we are, finally finished the system. And since the last time, I got the valves installed, one on each line, and we put the sand in with help. That was a big job. And we cut the tops flush. So we put the sand in so that everything was standing as straight as possible. Unfortunately, not everything is straight. There's some that are kind of wonky, but it doesn't really matter too much. I'll try. And so the sand helped stabilize things a little bit. Then I put that laser on, cut all the tops flush, glued these adapters on, and then these nozzles are male thread, 1/2-inch male thread and PT. So just screwed those in, and then I had to just do the wiring for the controller, which was not too bad. Each valve just has 2 lines. One goes to the common on the controller, and another goes to the specific valve. So that means there's 3, because I put the 2 commons together. And I'm using a Galcon 8056 AC6S, and basically what it comes down to is seconds. So now I'm looking at the duration for valve number 1, and I'm going to be putting it on at 6 seconds. It's going to repeat at 4-minute intervals. And just to show you what it looks like, super even. Very fine mist, but not too fine, it's not a fog. So I had enough water pressure to get one line doing that at a time, but not both. So that's why the two valves are there, so that the final setting is going to be this whole line will go for 6 seconds, and then that'll turn off, and then this whole line will go for 6 seconds. So that whole thing will get evenly misted every 4 minutes, starting at about 7:30 in the morning, going to about 7 at night or so. So the whole day when the sun is out, they'll be getting a mist every 4 minutes, just a few seconds here and there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That controller has the capability to do 6 different valves. So 2 are spoken for, but I could put another one to put the cucumber irrigation on a timer. I could put some more spray valves over the propagation table where we do all of our farm vegetable seedlings. That's our next planting of lettuce ready to go in. And so, yeah, the multiple zones allow you to just do different things once you've already got the system up and running. That's a hardwired controller. It's AC, so I don't have to worry about that going out unless the power goes out. And it has a battery backup. So if the power goes out, it's okay. Although if the power goes out, the well goes out, so it's not okay. We do have a backup generator. Unfortunately, it's not connected to the well right now, which I'm going to have to figure that out, because if we have thousands and thousands of cuttings in here, which we hopefully will in a couple weeks, we're really not going to want to lose those at all in the event that the power goes out. So that gets into fairly low resilience system. Everything has to work all the time, but on the positive side, you can end up with thousands of named variety cultivar woody perennials of things that are very hard to propagate and slow to propagate in any other way. So should allow us to ramp up a lot of different things super quickly. It's June 18th now, so many plants are ready to go as far as cuttings, and so we will be starting and filling this thing up almost right away, and hopefully within a month or two. It'd have to be pretty much by mid to late July. So in about a month, 5 weeks from now, this thing should have every cutting in it that it's gonna have. After, you can do a few cuttings after that, and first week of August, second week of August, but pretty much I want to try to have it mostly done by August. So I'm using pure sand here. This is concrete sand, so it's very good draining, washed concrete sand, pretty good aggregate. You don't need any fertility in there whatsoever. They're just gonna root in here, and then the early ones that root really well and start to grow a little bit, those will actually get planted out in a nursery bed for the rest of the season and can even be sold this fall. Amazingly, elderberry can still get to like a nice 10-12 inch size well-rooted growing plant by the end of this season from a cutting that I haven't even taken yet. A few plants can do that, but the majority of them will be rooted in here, and then they'll go dormant in this bed. I won't touch them. These sides will roll down. This greenhouse will be unheated. This system will be drained. I will have to come in and water them every once in a while, just a few times throughout the winter, because this will otherwise lose all of its moisture. I probably will even put row cover over the top to keep some moisture in and keep them even a little bit warmer. And then these things will wake up really early because this is a greenhouse. They'll wake up in March, start growing, and then by late April, May, I can take those cuttings right out of here where they rooted, put them in a pot, and they're good for sale. So it's going to be a really nice flow that way. And yeah, I think that's basically everything I wanted to say. I'll do an update once we actually get things growing in here. Pretty exciting.